Picture the bridge of the Enterprise, consoles blinking, warp engines humming, and at the heart of it all, a tall, bearded officer whose easy grin could defuse Romulan standoffs as quickly as it melted Saturday-night Nielsen charts. Jonathan Frakes seemed born to wear Starfleet red, yet in 2004, one earthbound misfire, Thunderbirds, triggered a chain reaction almost no career survives. It wasn't just a box office flop. It became the cautionary whisper in every green lighting meeting. Remember what happened to Frakes. Overnight, agents ghosted him, studio chiefs treated his name like a contagion, and the man once trusted with a $70 million Star Trek epic was suddenly trying to hawk secondhand furniture out of his Maine garage. How does an actor-turned-director rocket from cult hero immortality to movie jail exile? And why did Hollywood work so hard to keep the next chapter invisible? The answer bends through trombone solos in small-town Pennsylvania, Broadway footlights nobody remembers, and a bar in Studio City where napkins became film school textbooks. It weaves around marriage delays caused by 7 endless auditions, through 18-hour days in which Frakes sprinted from camera to captain's chair and straight into a heartbreaking hospital corridor where he made an impossible promise to a dying brother. But here's the twist the gossip blogs never printed. Every canceled pilot, every polite "we'll be in touch," every empty voicemail inbox was secretly forging a skill set no spreadsheet could quantify. When cable and streaming detonated a multiverse of genre storytelling, executives discovered that the one man they'd blacklisted was now the only director who spoke fluent VFX, ensemble comedy, and warp-core technobabble in a single sentence. Suddenly, Radioactive morphed into Radio Beacon, guiding runaway schedules, balancing budgets, and mentoring a new generation of showrunners who'd grown up quoting his lines. So buckle up for a story that jumps from Pennsylvania band competitions to Paramount war rooms. From the Borg Queen's oily cables to German sound stages buzzing with skeptical whispers of fact or fiction, you'll meet the castmates who once doubted he could direct them, the network suits who canceled him twice only to come begging years later, and the relentless optimist who still signs every autograph with the same 2 words, keep looking. Because the comeback Hollywood tried to bury isn't just about one man's career resurrection, it's a blueprint for turning rejection into rocket fuel and grief into a galactic mission. Jonathan Scott Frakes slid into the world on August 19, 1952, in a tiny Bellefonte, Pennsylvania hospital that smelled faintly of floor wax and fresh coffee. His father, James, lectured on English literature. His mother, Doris, shaped elementary school minds. They paid the bills with words and chalk dust. But at home, the soundtrack was big band jazz. By the time Jonathan could reach a light switch, he could already recognize a Duke Ellington riff. One restless 4th grade morning, a band director pushed a battered trombone into his hands. The instrument was chosen for him, not by him. His arms were simply longer than the other kids. That accident of anatomy sparked a lifelong affair with performance. He marched with Bethlehem's famed Liberty High Grenadier Band, winning national trophies and the odd mayoral proclamation. Yet trophies don't pay tuition. He entered Penn State as a psychology major, believing a sensible degree might shelter him from the starving artist cliché. Fate laughed. A summer usher job at a local theater flipped the script. One understudy called in sick. A director spotted Frakes' easy grin and said, "Kid, you're on." The spotlight felt warmer than any August sun. Jonathan abandoned psychology for theater, joined the Penn State Thespians, and spent nights rehearsing until the custodian chased him out. After graduating, he sprinted to Harvard's Loeb Drama Center for a crash course in professional acting. Real sets, real criticism, real hunger. It was discipline forged in sweat, exactly what Hollywood would one day underestimate. Diploma in hand, he rented a shoebox apartment in Manhattan with his younger brother Daniel. They hauled furniture by day, auditioned by night, and slept in shifts. Jonathan donned a cheap spandex suit to greet Comic-Con crowds as Captain America, signing autographs no one would remember. But every forced smile taught him how to charm an audience, a skill the galaxy would soon celebrate. But packed theaters and caped cameos weren't paying the rent yet. And Broadway's brightest sidewalks can be the darkest alleys when your name isn't on a marquee. In 1976, he landed a chorus role in the musical Shenandoah. 8 shows a week kept him solvent, but not safe. The Broadway paycheck disappeared when the curtain fell for the final time. Television beckoned, first as a Vietnam vet on the daytime soap The Doctors. Steady money, but daytime dramas are soap bubbles, beautiful and fragile. When producers popped his storyline, he aimed west. Los Angeles greeted him with relentless sunshine and equally relentless rejection. He guest starred on Charlie's Angels, Quincy, M.E., The Waltons, Fantasy Island, stacking up souvenirs of shows nobody remembered a season later. Every new pilot felt like a launch pad, every cancellation a crash landing. The TV movie Beach Patrol promised series gold. Instead, the ratings flatlined. Bare Essence looked like primetime salvation, but was yanked off air faster than a commercial break. On Bare Essence, he first crossed paths with Jeannie Francis, the soap opera superstar who'd later steal his heart. Their initial meeting fizzled into awkward banter. He joked about her hair, she rolled her eyes. Still, the universe had them on layaway. Jonathan moved on, suitcase always half-packed, hope always half-full. What he couldn't see yet was that every dead-end roll was nudging him toward a bridge that spanned the entire Alpha Quadrant. Hollywood was humming with rumors of a bold revival. A brand new Star Trek set a century after Captain Kirk. The role of second-in-command demanded charm, authority, and just enough swagger to challenge a starship captain without mutinying. Jonathan auditioned 7 times, each round thinning the hopeful herd. Studio execs preferred safer names. Gene Roddenberry, legendary creator of the franchise, saw something else, maybe a reflection of his own younger self. He placed calls, wielded clout, and the final casting decision beeped through like a USS Enterprise hail. Frakes was Commander William T. Riker. On set, cheap fiberglass chairs sat too low. Jonathan casually swung his leg over the backrest to sit, an unplanned move fans soon dubbed the Riker maneuver. It became an in-joke, a meme before memes, a perfect symbol of confidence under pressure. Behind the scenes, he soaked up everything. Lighting setups, blocking decisions, editing quirks. Patrick Stewart led the cast with Shakespearean gravitas. Brent Spiner turned android logic into comedic gold. Frakes studied them all, but silently prepared for bigger responsibilities. The bridge lights were bright, but in the shadows of the soundstage, he was mapping a new constellation, one that would lead him behind the camera. Mid-season 3, Jonathan mustered the courage to request an episode to direct. Executive producer Rick Berman's polite smile said maybe. His raised eyebrows said unlikely. Frakes didn't argue. He strategized. He spent 300 unpaid hours in editing bays, memorized lens focal lengths, sketched storyboards by hand until his pencils bled. The crew christened his 47-page pitch Bible the Riker Directive. When the producers finally glanced through it, skepticism morphed into shock. No actor had ever presented homework that thorough. They gave him The Offspring. Frakes pulled 18-hour shifts, half in uniform as Riker, half in a director's jacket, sprinting between camera monitors and his mark. Some castmates doubted the experiment. Could a colleague critique their performances? By day 2, doubt melted. The episode, Data Building an Android Daughter, aired to standing ovations from fans and critics. Marina Sirtis later confessed she'd never felt so safe being vulnerable on camera. After that, he was the show's secret weapon. He directed more episodes, mentoring under cinematographer Marvin Rush in a tiny Hollywood pub where storyboards were scribbled on damp bar napkins. Those napkins still hang framed in Frakes' office, a shrine to self-education. When the feature film division went hunting for a director who understood both warp drive and human drama, their first calls went to Oscar winners. Their last call went to the man already fluent in both. Star Trek First Contact 1996 had 10 weeks of prep, 12 weeks of shooting, and unlimited expectations from a rabid fanbase. Frakes dissected Spielberg thrillers and Kubrick epics, determined to fuse blockbuster spectacle with Trek philosophy. He championed the chilling idea of a Borg queen, one face for a faceless enemy. Alice Craig's haunting performance, stitched together by ILM's 5-month effects marathon, turned nightmares electric. When the film hit theaters, critics raved. Box office numbers soared like a Warp 9 jump, but lightning rarely strikes twice in the same nebula. Insurrection landed with a muted thud. Good, not great. Executives shrugged. Audiences moved on. Then came the grenade. Thunderbirds, 2004. Nostalgia branding and star power couldn't save the movie from scathing reviews. It hemorrhaged $57 million. Overnight, Jonathan Frakes acquired a new nickname whispered in studio hallways. Box office poison. He called it movie jail. Phones stopped ringing. The man who once steered the Enterprise now found himself locked outside every lot gate. He sold memorabilia, downsized, and relocated to Maine, where his wife opened a seaside home goods store to steady their finances. The quiet was deafening. Yet exile can be an incubator, and while Hollywood forgot him, television, hungry, chaotic, endlessly expanding, was about to need a fixer. Cable exploded, streaming empires rose overnight, and suddenly every network needed genre television. Now, Writers' rooms overflowed with cosmic ideas but lacked anyone who could wrangle VFX chaos, million-dollar prosthetics, and actors in ping-pong ball mocap suits without blowing a schedule to stardust. Enter Jonathan Frakes. His first rescue mission came on The Librarians. TNT's pulpy adventure series was drowning in exposition and underlit green screen sets. Frakes arrived with a smile, cut 8 pages of technobabble, blocked the climax like a silent film chase, and wrapped a day early. The crew nicknamed him Uncle Frakes, a leader who'd eat craft services tacos while storyboarding crane shots on napkins. Word spread faster than a Q Continuum prank. Next, ABC's Agents of SHILD faced a mid-season slump. Ratings wobbling, stunt budgets bleeding. Frakes walked onto stage 16, asked for a skateboard, and demonstrated, at 50+, how he wanted the camera to glide through a Hydra firefight. The sequence made the episode trailer. Viewership spiked. Marvel executives called him back twice more. Between gigs, he tackled The Orville, where Seth MacFarlane blended satire with sincere Trek homage. Frakes understood that tonal tightrope better than anyone. He coached the comedy beats, then insisted on wides that let practical starship sets shine. Fans flooded Reddit threads praising vintage Trek heart in his episodes. Meanwhile, the Trek universe itself was mutating on streaming. Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds, and even animated Lower Decks needed directors fluent in canon yet fearless with 8K LED volume stages. Frakes became the connective tissue, mentoring young showrunners, protecting legacy lore, and reminding everyone that character beats, eye contact, a pause before orders, matter more than photon torpedo count. Studios noticed his miracle math. One Frakes episode often came in 8 to 10% under budget, freeing cash for finale VFX shots that usually get axed. Line producers quietly attached his name to pitch decks. If we hire Frakes for episode 3, we can afford the dragon in episode 10. But the fixer title wasn't just economic. On set, he ran open bridge meetings. Any PA could pitch a solution. One night, a grip suggested using mirror boards to fake Borg cube reflections. Frakes approved on the spot, saving 3 hours of rigging. The grip still brags about it at conventions. Off-set, he launched the Frakes Film Lab, a weekend workshop where entry-level editors get to cut raw dailies from his shows. He doesn't charge a cent. He only asks participants to pay it forward. Several alumni now edit for Disney+, Netflix, and Paramount+. By 2018, industry press labeled him genre whisperer, but he corrected interviewers gently. "I'm a student who never graduated." The humility kept doors open, from Netflix kaiju thrillers that fizzled in dev hell to Amazon steampunk pilots still under NDA. Each project reinforced one truth: the man Hollywood once jailed had quietly become indispensable to its most ambitious experiments. And yet, for all the tentpole fixes, one personal passion project kept knocking, then vanishing, like a ghost story nobody believed. Back in the late 90s, beyond belief, fact or fiction had turned Frakes into late-night folklore. Dressed in a charcoal blazer, he invited viewers to separate urban legend from reality. Reruns amassed cult status on YouTube, where remixers stitched his rhetorical questions into trance tracks. Is it real? Is it? So in 2018, when CBS greenlit a glossy reboot, Frakes felt like he'd found his personal Nexus ribbon. The plan? 8 episodes, 4K cinematography, interactive end credits letting viewers vote in real time. Writers' rooms buzzed with twisted true tales, an AI-generated lullaby causing nightmares, a decommissioned space capsule transmitting impossible Morse code. Frakes, set to direct every episode, mapped crane moves during breakfast and story beats over midnight espresso shots. 3 days before cameras rolled, a new CBS president shelved half a dozen niche experiments to chase safer reality TV numbers. The cancellation memo arrived by courier, a single page that read, "Project paused indefinitely." Crew members wept in the parking lot, staring at warehouse sets already dressed with antique radios and flickering Edison bulbs. The heartbreak echoed every pilot implosion of Frakes' early career, but this time, 150 families depended on the paycheck. Frakes personally called each department head, promised he'd fight for severance, and did. Union reps later confirmed the payouts were above minimums for a scuttled show. While lawyers haggled, German broadcaster RTL saw opportunity. They acquired global rights in 72 hours, rebranding the series X Factor das Unfassbare. Here's the twist. The show would still film in Los Angeles, but scripts were translated nightly and shipped to Cologne for ADR. Frakes flew to Germany to record opening monologues in phonetic German, practicing guttural R's between takes. The cultural mashup worked. The premiere trended #1 on German Twitter, then spiked on TikTok when teens stitched Frakes' gravelly war as Wirklichkeit into jump scare edits. Success triggered a ripple. Nordic streamers licensed the series, dubbing him in Swedish and Finnish while keeping his signature eyebrow raise intact. Fan conventions in Prague and Sao Paulo invited him to host live fact or fiction polls on stage, cell phone flashlights substituting for clickers. A Chicago pop culture festival installed a Frakes booth where attendees pressed a red button to receive a random skeptical question. Do you really think coins fall from the sky? In his voice. Lines wrapped around the block. By 2024, Paramount executives, some of the same gatekeepers who'd iced the reboot, pitched bringing Beyond Belief back to the US as a premium streamer anthology. Negotiations continue, but Frakes holds leverage this time. International proof of concept, a rabid Gen Z meme culture, and the moral high ground of a creator who refused to let corporate cold feet kill a good ghost story. Amid all the paranormal hype, one very real specter still guided his every public appearance: the memory of his little brother, Daniel. Daniel Frakes wasn't just Jonathan's sibling, he was co-pilot in every impossible scheme. They shared a beat-up '67 Chevy Sport van, took turns sleeping on its ripped vinyl bench while audition hopping across Manhattan, and once busked jazz, trombone, and harmonica duets for subway tokens. When doctors found Daniel's pancreatic cancer in 1997, it was already stage 4. Jonathan flew from a Deep Space Nine guest set directly to the hospital, trade paper scripts still in his backpack. Daniel joked, "Read me lines. It'll be like old times." After the failed Whipple surgery, prognosis was 6 months. Jonathan begged scheduling favors, cramming directing duties into 4-day blocks so he could grab red-eyes back to Bethlehem for bedside nights. Daniel passed away a week before Jonathan's daughter was born. Grief blurred with newfound fatherhood, creating an ache he once described as warp core breach cold, silent but absolute. Determined that no family relive that timeline, he dived into PanCan advocacy. At first, he lent name recognition, signing autographs at purple-themed charity dinners. Soon, he joined board meetings, challenging researchers with Riker-esque directness. Where's our early detection tricorder? He lobbied Congress for NIH appropriations, using Star Trek's future medicine ethos to illustrate potential. Staffers smiled at the pop culture reference but noted his command of statistics. 5-year survival, up from 4 to 12%, yet still the deadliest major cancer. Frakes spearheaded Purple Stride Los Angeles, turning the walk into a hybrid fan medical expo. Cosplayers marched beside oncologists. Starship captains flanked chemo survivors. He auctioned his original First Contact director's chair for $27,000, enough to fund a graduate fellowship researching crass mutation pathways. In 2023, he hosted a 12-hour Twitch marathon, enlisting Will Wheaton, Kate Mulgrew, even William Shatner for live gaming. The stream raised $312,000 in micro-donations. One viewer simply typed, "For Daniel." Frakes teared up on camera, voice cracking mid-thank you. Beyond dollars, he helped launch Project Eon Scan, a multi-institution effort exploring breath analysis biomarkers for early detection. When the clinical trial press release dropped, Frakes recorded a PSA. Starfleet taught us scans save lives. In the 21st century, our tricorder is research. The spot ran before Strange New Worlds episodes, reaching millions of genre fans who'd never heard of Serum CA 19-9 levels, but trusted Commander Riker implicitly. He also personally mentors bereaved families. One story circulates at PanCan HQ. A teenager named Maya lost her dad to the disease and wrote Frakes a letter about skipping prom. He invited her to a Picard set tour, surprised her with a purple ribbon corsage, and had the crew play 1980s ballads over the PA so she could dance on a holodeck. Maya now studies biochemistry. She keeps the corsage pressed in a lab notebook. Frakes' activism hasn't solved pancreatic cancer yet, but every incremental survival bump feels like a photon torpedo landing on the disease's shields. He vows to keep firing until those shields fail. Jonathan Frakes' saga reads less like a 3-act Hollywood screenplay and more like one of Star Trek's finest two-parters. Just when the odds seem mathematically fatal, a last-second surge of ingenuity flips the narrative on its head. The studios that stamped "Do Not Hire" beside his name focused on a single data point, one expensive crater in the summer movie landscape. What they missed was the quieter constellation, Hundreds of television hours finished under budget. Millions of viewers retained by a director who knows the delta between a lukewarm mid-shot and a close-up charged with emotional warp plasma. They never quantified the intangible, how a set's morale soars when its leader learns every PA's first name, or how an overstretched VFX team finds an extra 2% of brilliance when the boss brings late-night tacos and sketches out fixes on the box lids. Today, Uncle Frakes stands at a fascinating intersection of myth and mentorship. In one orbit, he's the memeable host of Beyond Belief clips that rack up TikTok views in the tens of millions. In another, he's the quiet showrunner Whisperer Studios deploy when budgets collapse and premiere dates loom. And in a third, most personal orbit, he's the relentless advocate who straps on purple sneakers every April, walking until blisters bleed, because somewhere, a family is hearing a pancreatic cancer diagnosis for the first time. He mentors film lab novices who grew up watching the Riker leg swing, but had no clue the same man once lugged furniture across Manhattan to afford auditions. He FaceTimes weary oncology patients, cracking dad jokes until the chemo drip feels less like torture and more like a countdown to Comic-Con. He tells would-be quitters, writers, actors, gaffers that the only permanent failure is the one you accept before the credits roll. Then he proves it by rolling his own new credits year after year, whether on Picard, Strange New Worlds, or a German soundstage where he pronounces unglaublich with an American twang and a conspiratorial wink. Maybe Hollywood never issued a formal pardon from movie jail, but Jonathan Frakes built a tunneling device out of persistence, curiosity, and unashamed kindness. He surfaced on the other side, not just free, but indispensable. And if you ever doubt the power of a second, third, or seventh chance, remember the man who once waited 6 weeks for a callback that changed science fiction history, then waited 16 years for a second chance that's changing real-world futures. Listen for the convention hall roar, the charity walk hush, or the low murmur on a late-night set when someone asks, "Who can save this episode?" Somewhere in that soundscape, you'll catch a familiar cadence, steady, confident, and impossibly upbeat. Proof that a heart which refuses to quit can still out-thunder any box office bomb. When the end titles of Jonathan Frakes' career finally roll, decades from now, we hope, they won't list his biggest opening weekend or highest Rotten Tomatoes score. They'll list something far rarer, the lives extended by early detection, the storytellers he coached out of self-doubt, and the audiences who kept faith that every setback can be redirected at Warp Factor 9. Until then, the man who once swung a leg over a too-low captain's chair will keep swinging for bigger horizons, reminding us with every grin that resilience isn't science fiction, it's the prime directive.